All right, let's talk about something that can feel, well, pretty huge. The engineering thesis. But I want you to scrap the idea that it's just some massive formal document you have to write. Seriously, think of it more like a quest, your own personal adventure of discovery. So how do you even start a quest like that? Well, like any good adventure, you need a map. We're going to break this whole thing down into 6 key stages. This is our roadmap, taking us from a simple question right through to the final epic conclusion. Okay, first things first, the introduction. This is like the opening crawl in a movie, you know? It sets the scene, it tells everybody what's going on, what the big problem is, and why your specific adventure even matters in the first place. And this is so important. Before you even think about writing, you gotta ask yourself, what's my story? Because when you frame it like that, the whole process just clicks. It becomes way more interesting, not just for the person grading it, but for you. The best way to think about your intro is like a funnel. You start really big, right? You talk about the whole history of your field, where it is now, where it's going. Then you zoom in. You start pointing out the problems, the big challenges, the dragons that need slaying. Then you say, okay, here's what people have tried before. And then, bam, you introduce your idea. Your technology is the hero of this story. And you wrap it all up with a little teaser of what's to come in the next chapters. All right, the stage is set. Now it's time to actually map out the known world. I mean, no adventurer just runs off into the wilderness without a map, right? For you, that map is your literature review. This is you figuring out everything that's already been discovered so you know exactly where to start. And let's be real, this is no pocket-sized tourist map. We're talking about digging into somewhere between 50 and 75 recent, super relevant academic papers. Yeah, it's a lot, but this is how you become the absolute expert. You have to know the terrain like the back of your hand before you go exploring. So why read all that stuff? What's the point? It's to find this, the research gap. This is the blank spot on the map, the place where all the old maps just say, here be dragons. It's that one critical question nobody has answered yet. And finding that gap, that's the whole reason your quest exists. Okay, so you found the X on your treasure map. Now what? You can't just wander towards it. You need a plan, a blueprint. That's what your next chapter is all about, the objectives and methodology. It's your step-by-step game plan for the entire expedition. And this plan has a really logical flow. You start with your big picture aim, that's the treasure chest, right? Then you break that down into specific, measurable objectives. Think of these as the landmarks you need to hit along the way. And finally, you lay out your methodology, which is just the nitty-gritty, step-by-step instructions for how you're going to get from one landmark to the next. And listen, this part's not optional. The source material is super clear on this. A flow chart that shows your entire work plan, it's mandatory. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's your visual roadmap, and it lets anyone look at it and get the entire journey in like 5 seconds. It's crucial. All right, planning phase is over. Now it's time to get your hands dirty. This is the core of the quest, where you actually do the thing. You're assembling your toolkit, you're running the experiments, and you're facing all the challenges that come with it. The 2 words you gotta live by here are rigor and repeatability. See, here's the thing. Someone else has to be able to follow in your footsteps and get the same result. That's literally the foundation of good science. So that means you have to document everything. And I mean everything. The exact materials, the specific hardware, even the version number of the software you used. You have to lay out your entire experimental setup so clearly that another adventurer could replicate your quest perfectly. And this is a really important point. A nice, clear schematic diagram showing how all the pieces fit together and work, that's non-negotiable, mandatory. A photo of your setup is cool, it's a nice to have, but the schematic, that's what really explains the how. That's the critical part. Now this is where you come to a fork in the road. You've got to make a choice. Are you going to build it or are you going to model it? Basically, your quest is either going to be a simulation in the digital world or an optimization in the physical world. So you can see the 2 paths laid out here. On one side, you've got simulation. You're making CAD models, defining the physics, setting the rules of that digital world. On the other side, optimization. You're listing your variables, running a whole matrix of tests, and using powerful tools like ANOVA to figure out what really matters. But look at the end of both paths. They lead to the same place. No matter which road you take, you have to validate your results against real-world experimental data. That's the final checkpoint. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, the climax of the story. This is the results and discussion chapter. You've done the work, you've fought the battles, and now you finally get to open the treasure chest and show the world what you've found. But here's the most important thing to remember. Data doesn't speak for itself. A graph is just a bunch of lines and bars. You are the storyteller. Your job is to interpret it, to explain what it all means. You have to tell us the story that the data is trying to tell. And you'll do that with visuals just like this one. You'll produce graphs, charts, maybe even microscope images that clearly show the link between what you did and what happened. Every single graph is like a piece of evidence you're presenting to the jury. So your mission in this chapter, should you choose to accept it, has 4 parts. 1, show the data. 2, explain what it means, the cause and effect. 3, give the technical justification for why it happened that way. And 4, and this is so key, connect it all back to the work everyone else has done. Show how your discovery fits into the bigger picture. And just like that, we've reached the final chapter, the conclusion. This is where you get to take a victory lap. You summarize the whole epic adventure and share what you've learned with the rest of the world. This is really the moment you bring it all home. Think about it. You started with just a question. You went on this massive quest, and you've come back with brand new knowledge, something that literally did not exist in the world before you found it. That's pretty cool. So how do you stick the landing? It really comes down to 3 things. First, sum up your biggest findings and use actual numbers to back it up. Make it concrete. Second, give your final recommendations. And third, you basically draw the next treasure map. You point to where future adventurers should go next. And that's what's so amazing about this whole process. Your conclusion isn't really an ending. It's a launch pad. You filled in a blank spot on the map, and in doing so, you've given the next researcher a place to start their quest. So there you have it. Your research is a story just waiting to be told. We've laid out the map, we've given you the blueprint. Now there's really only one question left to ask. What will your first chapter be?